evening. How you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome to season 2, episode 30 of Lawfully Chaotic.
Just let that set in.
I know. Wow, nobody's in chat tonight. Everybody must be watching football. It might be just be you and me talking to each
Oh,
other.
that right? It is Thursday night football, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, for those of you watching after the fact, or those of you who might join chat, thank you for joining us tonight.
You're like, I win this time.
Yeah, right. I finally beat 3 miles and Kurt into chat. Tonight we are going to be talking about kind of the two ends of the spectrum for a DM in terms of running a game. One is, how do you get people or convince people? Well, let me start this way. So I was talking to a guy. Subs have ads now. I don't know. Do they?
Yeah, they do.
We're not making any money off of that shit.
I know Twitch is, but we're not.
Yeah, sorry, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that to our platform.
Yeah, it used to be, if you had a sub, you didn't you weren't going to experience ads, but Twitch revenue has been on the steady decline for so long, which is one of the reasons why a year ago I wanted to switch to YouTube, because to me YouTube is kind of a better stable platform.
Oh,
and I know I'm never going to need to worry about monetization, and it's a lot easier for folks to get to the video library.
Their hurdles now for monetizing on YouTube are like, they're high hurdles.
Yeah, their thresholds are shit.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about the ads. Please buy my product or whatever product it is in the ad you see, although I don't know what they are.
Buy my ass cream designed to make your ass not itch.
Ass cream. Lawfully Chaotic, sponsored by Ass Cream.
Ass cream.
Anyway, so tonight's topic is, I was at my son's soccer game last weekend and started talking to one of the other parents, and he had said that he tried playing D&D, and it was the first time he had ever played. He had just heard of the game, and they tried to get one of their other friends to DM, and they had a real struggle is what it is. So we started talking. It got me thinking of maybe we talk again about how to address completely brand new players. Like, oh, I've heard of D&D, but I've never played and I've always wanted to. And this is what I hear a lot, but I don't know how to play role-playing games. It's hard. How do you learn?
Right.
So how, with the DM, do you ease people into at least trying it? And then conversely, as a DM, how do you keep veteran players and who have high-level characters, 18, 19, 20, how do you keep them engaged and challenged, which can sometimes be a challenge? So that's what we'll be talking about tonight. Jason, good to see you again.
Yeah, back from break.
Yeah, how was your break?
It was pretty good. Yeah. Pretty eventful. Went to an event and ran the merchant booth, so we did pretty well. Probably one of our better events we've done in quite a few years. And then came back fully refreshed and ready to go. It was nice I didn't run any games. I didn't do anything. I just, got to just have a 7-day camping trip that was fully immersive for me, and like my SCA stuff that I like to do, and the medieval reenactment stuff that we do, and got to see a whole bunch of people that I don't get to see but maybe once a year because we see them at the event.
Awesome.
It was hot. Not gonna lie, that sucks when it's got to be that hot in October, and it was humid too.
Yeah.
And it was just like, fuck, this sucks. But
it's already cooling off in Chicago. It's been 40s. Today was 50, upper 50s, not too bad. So
during the day, we're lucky to get that at night. We're still like, we were in the mid 70s, but we're back up into the mid 80s again, and we're stuck there,
dude.
Probably till the weekend.
When was the last warm day? I don't remember when it was, but it was within the last 5-7 days. I mean, Chicago. It was 75, 80 one day, and it was 48 the next. I mean, that's
wow. That's dramatic.
The joke is, if you don't like the weather in Chicago, wait 10 minutes. And it's honestly not that much of an exaggeration. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think we've got a really cool thing coming up this weekend. We got a solar eclipse due this weekend.
Oh yeah, isn't it the one where you can see the ring of fire and flame? And I think it's
Yes.
actually a portal to the nine hells. I'm
No,
waiting to see Tiamat's head come out of the moon.
our world is the portal to the nine hells.
Our world is the nine
Ninth
hells.
hell, right? Everything going on. No shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very.
So
true.
what you got going on, Brian?
Not too much. End of boat season, so we're putting the boat away. Probably next week.
Yeah.
That's another thing. We always try to squeeze as much as we
Like
can
a
in the
last
season.
minute boat weekend in there.
Yeah, and then we're like, oh, we got a couple weeks to bring the boat down to the boatyard, and then all of a sudden it's 40 degrees and you're doing it like the North
you're doing
Atlantic.
it's cold
but,
as shit.
Yeah, but it's only
oh,
been 20,
poor baby.
Yeah, it's only been 20 times since I've taken my yacht down in the cold. I guess I'll deal with it.
It's not like, you don't come down to the finer yacht club of pumpernickel and damsels and just come and nosh on some food and have some wine down here at the yacht.
Otherwise, just busy as shit. A lot of Critical Role work. So not complaining about
their
that.
deadline's coming up for Candela Obscura. Their deadline for Obscura is due within the next month, I think, in November.
Is it? I still have no idea when the actual release date is.
According to Darrington Press and what they have posted on their webpage, they said late 2023 is still the date that's up there.
Right.
I've made some inquiries, tried to talk to that empty void of a place called Darrington Press where people never get back to you, which is funny as fuck.
I know. They're just fucking busy as shit.
Yeah, but you know what? Take a minute just to reply and say, yep,
I know.
Blah, blah, blah.
I'll ask. Maybe
I answer 100 DMs a day. So
I'm the same way.
12/31 is still late 2023.
That's
true. That's the last day of 2023.
Yeah, it'll be 12/31 at 11:59. Boom.
Yeah, boom, it drops.
What was I saying? No, I'm the same way. I'll answer somebody right away just to say I can't answer now, but whatever. Maybe I'll ask Alex tomorrow. I don't know what the release date is. If I did, I'd tell you because it's not a secret anymore. But wrapped up that Mortal Kombat one shot they're doing. So now they're moving on to another one. So I'm doing overlays for that. I can't tell you which one that is again, but it is another partnership one shot on borrowing from somebody else's IP, so that's pretty cool. And then working on a board game, and I think I can tell you this because it's going to be out for play testing. Oh, this is the one I told you about. So there's a board game coming out called Guardians of Matrimonia, and it is what Matt Mercer and Marisha Ray designed for their wedding. And then as kind of I think I don't know if they did it as like a guest favor or something to actually play or something like that. But anyway, Darrington picked it up. Obviously, not, they're all the same family, but Darrington took hold of it and is publishing it now as a full-on board game. It's a really awesome idea. So it's a wedding under the umbrella of like D&D. So you have
kind of like that one shot they did with Vox Machina when they did that.
Kind of, yeah. So you have to put out emergencies throughout the wedding and keep the spouses and the guests happy. And it's all like D&D theme. It's a really cute game.
It's a board game.
It's a board game. Yes, it is not a role playing game. Is it a board game?
Goblins show up and they eat half the cake. What do you do?
Yeah. So we're doing prototypes for that. Or I shouldn't say we. I'm not that much of a we yet. They are doing prototypes to play test. That should be out pretty soon too. So yeah, just been busy. So trying to keep my head above water, which is a good thing.
Very cool.
So yeah. Okay. So
what were we talking about?
I don't remember. We've talked about like between this past 11 minutes and the 20 minutes before we started, we've talked about 80 things already.
So how do you prep a session? How do you prep a zero session for newer players and getting them interested and keeping them interested? And how do you do the same thing with your veteran players? Like, what are those expectations got to hit to kind of get them to stay involved and get involved, I think?
Well, I wonder my initial question for the new player is, even before the zero session, how do you get somebody to that zero session? Because again, a lot of people are apprehensive about playing a role-playing game, because if you've never played a role-playing game before, it is very different from any other game or group activity, that you would normally do, at like a game night or a gathering or whatever. So I think, like I said, a lot of people, I think, still have some anxiety towards even trying it, because I don't know how to play. I'm not good at role playing. I don't know what the rules are, that type of thing.
The insurmountable challenge of getting introverted minded people to kind of like get that introverted nature and the absolute crushing fear of public speaking kind of like out of their head. And it's interesting because me and my friend Drew had this conversation over the weekend, because I'll be teaching a class at their game store. So they run a game store called SideQuest out of Pomona. And they asked me to help guest host. They call it the DM Academy, which is they get a lot of local interest around them, have them come in, and they're mentoring these people, these folks to become DMs. So a lot of these things are going to be very reticent to what I'm going to be talking about this Sunday to that group. My son will be there as well, so it'll be kind of fun.
Oh, awesome.
I think you have to recognize the biggest challenge is finding a group. We know this, right? Is finding a group. As someone willing to run a group, you have to recognize that it's either going to be by spontaneity, or it's going to be through a local game store, or somehow you come across a remote opportunity to run a game. And then in your mind, you have to ask yourself, do I want to feel more comfortable running a game for friends and family? Or is it going to be more comfortable for me if I do it for strangers? Because now what you're trying to do is, in your mind, brand new players who are strangers, are my odds going to be better with that group? Like, am I going to feel more comfortable? Am I going to be able to do the work without, feeling this crushing sense of, doubt and self-annihilation that I'm no good at this?
Self-annihilation.
Right? Well, it is, because
it's, you sabotage
you want to do well. You want people to have fun. You want people to enjoy themselves. They're, you're looking at, an opportunity of 3 to 4 hours of time that they're willing to share with you. And you're thinking to yourself in that very first session, zero session, when you're looking at your table, looking at your screen, or looking at the group that you're interacting with, how many veterans do I have? How many new players do I have? What are their, and I think there's a couple kind of interesting things you can do to prep for that zero session. One of the things that's gotten really popular is a questionnaire, a very simple, 10-step questionnaire. Hey, what got you involved? What do you like to do? What are your expectations coming into this? Just like little simple gate checks that allow the DM to have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more understanding of what's coming to the table or coming to the screen, depending on how they're running that game. The other thing that could be really helpful is, once again, dig into the culture of the table. Do you have a lot of anime people? Do you have a lot of, fantasy people? What culture do they like? Do they like sci-fi? Do they like fiction? Do they like historical fiction? What's the culture vibe at the table? What can I do in the zero session to do all that? And then be honest about the backstories. I don't think backstories get used enough. And I think that is always the best way, or at least one of the most effective ways, to keep people hooked, keep them tied in, keep them feeling like not only am I having fun, but the DM is taking a lot of extra effort to somehow bring my backstory into the equation, and therefore make it so that I feel both immersed and committed to what I'm trying to get out of this game. And I would argue that zero session could be used for any role-playing game. To be, any role-playing game, regardless of the dozen or so systems that are out there. A zero session is designed to help you get the understanding of the players and get it level set to the idea of the either campaign or one shot that you're attempting to run. Like I've been wrestling with how to roll out my Walking Dead game. And I think I'm going to roll it out as a one shot system. So I'm going to roll it out as my Monday night one shot where, people can sign up, join me for a Monday night one shot on, Walking Dead, where I can teach them the system. And then we have a quick one shot, 2.5 hour one shot. Not a whole lot of investment in the character. So the mechanics become center stage. And I think with newer players,
do you have a date for that, by the way?
I'm thinking November or December at this point.
Okay.
Either November or December.
If I'm in town, I got a couple short weekend trips, but if I'm in town, I would love to play that.
And it would be Monday from 3 to 6, so it's not a horrible time zone for you either.
No, that works.
So yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
All right, let me know when that's happening. I'd like to join.
Yeah, once I get it posted on the new RPG&Co website, I'll get it out to people.
Okay.
But yeah, so like to me, this is going to sound a little overly self-confident, I think. Getting new players invested, I think, is a lot easier to do than getting veteran players invested.
Oh, I fully agree.
Absolutely. And I've tried and I've done well with a lot of veteran players, and I think there's a handful of players that I would call veteran players from second edition. And I think they were genuinely surprised at how much fun 5th edition was being made. Mm-hmm. But I think for veteran players, there's a lot more effort, a lot more prep, and a lot more organization for those groups than there is with the newer groups. Because the newer groups are going to be more fixated on mechanics.
Right.
Because they don't know how the game runs. And once they realize that the role playing is always going to be optional anyways, I think it decompresses the angst. It gets rid of that tension that natural introverts have about role playing. But I don't think we should stop them from, one of my pieces of advice to this group on Sunday is going to be, hey, if you're in college, take a speech course, take speech 20, 30 or 40 and learn to speak in front of groups through your collegiate program.
Or improv or sketch writing, any of that stuff.
Like take theater, take a sing class, or I guess to summarize it, take something that you're afraid of and try doing it. See what happens, and see if it breaks the idea of that tension and that introverted kind of I don't want to do that, kind of vibe. I mean, how do you approach newer versus veteran players when it comes to getting them locked and hooked in?
I love everything that you said. I think that's really I operate similarly since I've started doing zero sessions, which is the same thing. Talk about your backstory. Mostly it's just sitting down and talking about the characters, the backstories. I like what you said about get a feel for what kind of cultures and genres they have. Even if you're playing, let's say you're playing D&D, but people like sci-fi, you could kind of, you could always put that undertone on it.
Well, especially with Spelljammer, right? Spelljammer can give you a little bit of sci-fi flavor. Or if they like horror, Eberron, you could do Eberron, or if you're playing an actual sci-fi game, Aliens.
Exactly.
If you're playing the Aliens role-playing game,
yeah. So I like that. So I do very similar what you do. Now in talking to this guy, I realized that there's even a step, like I said, before the zero session, which is, me and my wife and my oldest son and my brother and a couple that we know we want to play, but none of us have ever played D&D. So they don't necessarily have the looking for game. This is a very specific scenario, but they don't.
Right.
They have the people to play. They know the people, so there's no anxiety in terms of I'm going to make a fool of myself speaking in front of strangers. It's more so, like I said, I don't know how to play a role-playing game, and I don't know how to role play. And I find with that, my answer really is quite simple to them. If you're interested, then you should just play. You don't need to read a book. You don't need the rules. It's as simple as you will learn by playing. Okay. There are people who have been playing for 30, 40 years who still have to look up rules. It's not one of those games where you know everything. I mean, Matt Mercer looks up rules constantly. Sam Riegel's been playing for how many years now, and he still has to ask how many dice is that, or that type of shit. And it doesn't matter. It's not like you are doing a music recital, and if you screw up notes, people are going to know about it, and
Right,
it's like
right.
fingers on a chalkboard. It's not like that at all. Um,
Yeah. If you
people
work in
will,
the
yeah,
service industry, you're probably an ace role player already. Yeah.
exactly. And I
But
think that is where that anxiety comes, is people don't know what playing a role playing game is about. It's not.
I actually think the problem is they think they know.
Well, that could be it too. It's like,
You know,
do I have to
the
dress up in chainmail and get up and give a Shakespearean soliloquy, or
or I because I enjoy watching it on YouTube, I watch 20 different, people playing. And like, I hate to tell you this, but 99% of them are all professional actors and actresses
Yeah,
that
well,
you're
exactly.
watching. It's
And I
like
never
the
tell
latest.
people, I will never say go watch Critical Role, because no.
Yeah, I mean, the latest trend since the explosion of the Critical Role show has been people are using the role playing platform as a way to launch their own personal
Yes.
acting careers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's even trended into Baldur's Gate 3, where you have the voice actors kind of like jumping on the coattails of the popularity of it, and they're playing a walkthrough BG3 game.
Yeah.
Like, because they know a lot of people, they get 500,000 subscribers just watching them play that game. And they're like, oh my, I just watched Momo O'Brien's, her release came out today. I thought, I didn't know she was still on YouTube. So I was really happy to see that she is. And I immediately, tracked down her page. And I enjoy watching Momo because she reminds me of that millennial generation on the younger side that is still finding their journey in this space. And she's funny. And I enjoy it, and I think that kind of energy, if you could translate it into the angst and help use that kind of energy to penetrate, like Ginny D does it, like with her performances, right? She's clearly, they both fixate on the idea is, how can I make something fun and get people away from the concern? Like, if you're already sitting around a table going, oh man, this is too much, I can't do this,
Yeah.
I'm freaking out, then walk away and try it again another day. It's okay to walk away if something's like,
absolutely, but
out.
yeah, the trick is getting them to the table and trying it, and most of the time, I think it's pretty rare that it doesn't work out. I mean, 9.9 times out of 10, if you get a group like I'm talking about together and they play, they're going to say, oh, I like this. And guess what? Now you're a role player. So so sometimes there's that hurdle of getting people to the table. And like I said, I keep it in that situation. I keep it as short and sweet. I don't start going into rules or mechanics or even on an overview level, right? Because that is all going to be like over their head. It's just about getting to the table, try it, you like it. There's no big secret to it. You're just telling a story, and you're part of the story. And some people are, if you're not comfortable speaking, then you be the sneaky rogue in the corner, the soft-spoken rogue who only speaks when he's got something important to say. I mean, there's many ways to kind of get people past that first hurdle, which is actually sitting down at the table and trying the game. Beyond that, everything you said about Session Zero is pretty much how I operate also. And I think
and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting when you talk about how to even get people to talk about it, right? It's like, I have a lot of conversations about the game with people who are either kind of playing or want to try and play. What's interesting though is in the mix of that conversation is a whole lot of, but I'm not sure what day, or that typical kind of deprecating angst of, sure, I'm excited about it, but I'm way too introverted to actually do it.
And that's right. And that's what I mean. And that's where I say, somebody has to basically take the reins, and that's generally the DM. Like, look, I've been playing this for a while. I know how to DM. Let me, run you guys through something. Just try it. just try it. I mean,
Well,
if you have to bet, so we're assuming that these people want to do this, okay? But
right,
because the conversation is, oh yeah, D&D, I know it, I've heard about it, but I've never played. I've always wanted to.
right,
If you've got
right.
to beg somebody to play, it's probably not their thing, and it's not worth the
Yeah,
time. So
yeah,
this is
and
assuming the interest is there. It's just, I don't know how to get a group together. I don't know what night we play. No one knows the rules, blah, blah, blah. You say, okay, I can do this for you. And we'll play 3 sessions. We'll play 1 session. And if you like it, we can do a couple more. And more often than not, it turns into a 2-year campaign.
well, and I think you brought up the other way to get people interested is you inform them as to what a one-shot is, right?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And discussing a one-shot, I think, helps a lot. I think another thing that I don't even use enough is kind of what 3 Miles was saying. If BG3 is such a good opportunity to learn the game, recommend other games before they jump into that game. Maybe like the Temple of Elemental Evil board game, or play BG3 or play Diablo or play some of these immersive kind of computer role-playing games or board games that skirt around the basics of it, but it's more about the lore and the mythology of it, and then whatever mechanic system that game is running. Yeah, I mean, a bit.
Yeah, not that you homebrew board games nearly as much as a role-playing game, but I think there are ways that you can utilize specific board games
Yeah.
to facilitate that.
I think a lot of times we tend to want to just jump right into a session 0 conversation because we think just because someone's talked to us, that means they want to play.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is, so when I was a kid, there was no such thing as session 0. You rolled a character.
There was, but we just called it a pre-party.
Kind of.
It was a
so now a session 0, a much more thoughtful session 0 is becoming the norm. So this is almost like a session beta, if you will, of even before session 0, a pre-0 of just, okay, everybody, you want to play, let's just play. We'll pick a night. I'll run the game. The first session will be talking about the game. Okay. We're not just going to jump in and roll dice. We will have a session that introduces you. So that's how.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I think once again, we find ourselves falling back on the other challenge we have, which is, as you're talking to potential people that want to play, do they want to be a player? Do they want to be a DM? We already know that there's both a national and international shortage for DMs in general. But I think as you're having that, what I call cocktail party.
You say that, and just what popped into my head was like Sally Struthers begging for, please support the DM global community. We need DMs.
Yeah, right. There's
with Sarah McLachlan in the background.
Yeah. I think one of the things that gets lost in translation is that even though whether or not you want to be a DM or player, the hardest thing to do is to help people understand what the game is, like how and what. There's no other game like it.
No, and that's what I was trying to say.
There's a lot of games like it now, but in general, there's no other game with its kind of lore history and its ubiquitous popular cultural history in multiple generations. I would equate it to like Monopoly, but without the boredom, right? It's or the kind of grind that Monopoly is. But Monopoly has transcended multiple cultures and generations, and been around for a long time. D&D is transcendent, been around for a long time, gone through many different iterations, and you could have an 85-year-old person and a 12 or 15-year-old person talking about the game, and they may share enough common knowledge to talk about the game successfully. So, but to sit down at a dinner party and cocktail chat with a group of people, they're like, D&D, what's that? Right? That's the practice that I don't get enough of, because I find myself in circles of people that have already heard of it. They played it as a kid.
Oh,
they're like, oh, you do that professionally? Yeah, I used to play that as a kid.
Yeah. I do find that I'm pretty good at explaining it at a very base zero level like that to people.
So true.
Because I have had the conversation with people that, I mean, most people have heard of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's never heard of the game mentioned.
I think this week has proven to be a week of firsts. You never know.
I don't know if I would say
never
first,
know.
but I would say repetitive, but but I think I've actually gotten pretty adept at explaining at a very basic level to somebody who has never seen or picked up a role-playing game about what it is. I mean, that's and I think to your point, there's no other game like it because you pick up a board game, you read the rules, and you know how to play.
Right.
D&D or any other role-playing game, you know how to play mechanically, but there's nothing anywhere that says how to play a role-playing game, to my knowledge. I don't know if anybody's published a book.
Well, I think
how to play a role-playing game.
I think the influencer community has tackled that, right, through their
absolutely
nascent ways of trying to what I call the explain train, right? Everybody wants to explain everything. Where I'm kind of more of a bigger fan of show.
Yes.
Or journey, or like, hey, come over to my studio and let's talk about how you play this game.
Well, and exactly, and I'm the same way. I will explain what the game is about, but I won't go into how to play,
right?
Even at a basic level until we're sitting down at the table. And I'm not suggesting that nobody has tackled this, because you're right. It has been, it is, and it will continue to be tackled in the social channel. I just kind of wanted to bring it to light.
That makes sense
tonight, given that question that I got last weekend.
Coming into D&D without a frame of reference.
That's basically the gist of this, is with no frame of reference. Because in our world, everybody's got a frame of reference, so it's easy to take a lot for granted. But there are still a lot of people, believe it or not, I don't know who they are, morons, who have who have no frame of reference. Who have no frame of reference. So giving them that frame of reference is a step before even a session zero, as far as I'm concerned. And obviously, I need to be taught something through the rant. I don't know. Colin, next time we play, I'll reach to the camera and smack you a couple times. You're doing it wrong. Speaking of, Colin's party and I last night are embarking on the final chapter in the Tyranny of Dragons. Dude, how long has our campaign been? I think it's been 3 years, right?
I'm pretty sure Dungeon Daddy means something else. I'm pretty sure.
3 years. 3 years this campaign is going, and we are on the last chapter. And it's going to be messy.
It's going to be epic. I have a
it will be
Tiamat model here you should borrow.
I was actually, because I don't. All I've got is the Funko Pop one, and it's not big enough. I was going to ask you if you could mail me your Tiamat. It probably only cost you $120, and then $120 for me to send it back to you.
So I might as well just send you $120. You take your $120, just
buy one. Safe for his Tiamat. So here's an example. So Colin, I forget, when you started playing, was that the first time that you played, or was it the first time in a lot of years that you played? Because I remember you came in pretty fresh, not knowing a lot, and you picked it up exceptionally quickly. First time. So there you go. So Colin was a first-time player. And I think I remember you and I talked briefly, kind of along these lines about, right, that was our side game. I had a second campaign going for when people missed, but schedules in the summer became even more convoluted. So then we were missing two campaigns, so we quit the other campaign. But I think we kind of did the same thing. I mean, you had done your research a little bit before, so again, you did have a little bit of frame of reference, but in terms of playing, you had never played. And you and Colin and I spoke a lot, via chat and whatnot, and I think even on the phone a couple times, just about like, here's how I think this works as a role playing game. Am I right? What, blah blah blah. And we had that discourse back and forth. And like I said, you jumped in, and within 3 sessions, you were already correcting other players at the table. So, all of
All of CR. Well, but I mean, that makes season 2 was Mighty Nine, correct? That was
yes,
season 2,
which in my opinion is still the best. Well,
they were a lot drunkier.
No, he's talking about our group.
Oh, your game. But I would argue, Marisha is a fan of the ganja. So they used to drink a little bit more with the Mighty or the Mighty Nine group, or no, the Mighty Nine group. I think the Vox Machina group, while they did it at the first portion of the season, as soon as they realized that they were on a roller coaster, and I think dealing with the one guy who played the Dragonborn character, I think they reined
Orion Akaba.
Yeah, I think they
who
really
I've spoken
reined in.
to, by the way.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, not about that, because I didn't get to know him well enough.
Is he healthy? Is he healthy?
Yeah, very much so.
Good.
Yeah.
So would you consider him sober?
I think so. No,
yeah,
I do think so.
It's hard to know, right? It's
yeah,
hard to know.
But again, I didn't talk to him well enough to say, he's a friend of mine.
But he's a voice actor, right? He's still a voice actor.
He is still a voice actor, yeah.
That's good. I'm glad he's still working.
But I think he has moved on. He has cleaned up and whatnot. But I mean, from Critical Role standpoint, I get it. They do a very good job of keeping their nose as clean as absolutely possible for very good reasons.
So I still think there's a lot of value to people watching those games. I just think it becomes a lot more a higher challenge of the potential game master or DM to set a proper expectation.
I was just
I think it's easier to set
that's a little bit of an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, I mean, my tables have all been very fortunate because I've got 42 years or more of playing, and I've probably played it poorly more than great. I would say my game has peaked within the last 10 years for sure. Mm-hmm. But that's because I can finally come to terms with the fact that I love DMing. I have a passion for it, enough of a passion to do it for a living. And I know I do it well, and I have to learn to tell myself that, because my brain constantly tells me I don't do it well.
Well, that's all of us in everything we do creatively.
Yeah. So I think getting newer players involved, once you get past the cocktail conversation and they actually show up to the table, I think their investment is a lot easier to manage and predict. I think you're going to have an easier time of it.
Yes, I agree. 3 Miles brings up an interesting point, and I have done this before too. I have talked to each player, or at least some of the players. Some players just don't have an idea about backstories and whatnot, and it kind of forms as they play, which is fine. Some have ideas about backstory, and I have had singular conversations about that, and then through those backstories, figure out how to start the game. Like, okay, your two characters starting together because you know each other. You're off on your own. These two know each other, and here's why you're coming together. Instead of the classic, oh, you're all in a tavern, join, type join.
And I've always had a higher degree of appreciation for that method. I just recently rebooted a campaign. They hit the midway arc. They destroyed a central figure. At least they think they've destroyed a central figure. And they're currently stepping into the multiverse.
Okay.
And by stepping into the multiverse, they go back to the singularity of their first interaction with the beginning of their arc, but they're minus 2 players. They're minus 3 characters. We still have, or 2 characters. We still have the players, but 2 of the players decided to roll something different for the reboot of the last second half of the arc.
Interesting.
And I think that helped me keep their interest because, they're level 13 players. They've been with me for over 4 years. So you start transcending out of the newer community and into the veteran community. I think it's a lot easier to get them to a session 0. I think the hardest part about a veteran community is keeping their interest. Is the hardest
And
part.
that was a perfect segue. Let me just
Yeah.
address this. This is a good
Okay.
point.
The
Watching
slapstick. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't watch Critical Role because
Right.
it'll give your expectations a shot of cocaine,
Yeah.
and then you'll never you'll only want that. Not at all. But it is good to know, and this is a good point, that role playing in a role playing game does not have to be a theatrical drama experience, right? I
Right.
mean, it can be any. But yeah, so your segue into veteran players or higher level character players, I think, I've said it before. I personally, as a player, enjoy levels like 7 through 12 or even 11, 6 through 10, 11, that type of range, the best. And even I find myself, once I get into the teens, and certainly, in one campaign, I've got a 18th level warlock. It is hard, even as a player, to maintain
Stay
that
immersed. Yeah.
excitement and to stay immersed. And I think it's even
Yeah.
harder for a DM to facilitate that. Not only because a 3-year campaign might be too long for some people, playing the same character might become boring. But as a DM, I think one of the greatest challenges is meting out a proper challenge level for your party. And it doesn't always follow the formula of challenge rating,
Right.
Especially like now, I had everybody level up to 20 for this final chapter of Tyranny of Dragons. It's really fucking hard to challenge 5 20th level players. I mean, they're fucking gods.
Tarask or Tiamat could level the playing field.
Okay, but getting up to Tiamat, so this is they've entered the spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't played Tyranny of Dragons and wants to play it. Okay, they've entered the Well of Dragons, and and the ritual is started. Okay, to pull Tiamat out of hell. There is a chance that they can. Colin, close your ears. There's a chance that they can stop the ritual, but that's not going to fucking happen because we've been playing for 3 years. You think I'm not going to have them fight Tiamat? But
I guess that brings up an
totally
stop there because I think that brings up an interesting point. Can you remain neutral enough to not tweak the outcome to make sure they get there? I can. I have no problem with that.
I don't know. It depends on the story that I'm running or telling.
Well, you just stated 3 years of playing. There's no way I'm not going to let them get to Tiamat.
Well, I mean, okay, Colin, let me ask you: would you want to end this campaign with "We stop the ritual, Tiamat doesn't show up"?
I mean, it's still a conclusion.
I'm waiting for his answer.
Still technically win. I
mean, I know. And if they do, I'm not
it's
gonna.
More of a Brian problem than a player.
It probably is. I'm guessing they all want to fight Tiamat, and I think I'm pretty on the nose with that assumption. If that's the way it goes, so be it. Okay, but I'm not going to help them.
Here's the thing I've noticed with some of my veteran players.
My point is, though, there's a whole mess of shit that they have to fight before she comes out, and it's not low-level shit. And so far, they're wiping the floor with it.
So that brings up an interesting point to the idea of the high-level character.
Mm-hmm.
What I have noticed that not only allows the veteran high-level characters to stay immersed, but there's ways you can layer the cake so that when they finally get there, they're like, oh, fuck, we're really fucked up. I don't know if we're gonna, and I've found that that a lot of my veteran players and players that have been playing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, they actually appreciate that creative way.
Yeah.
They have to grind through puzzles and traps and different things to get to that final kind of end of the story. And at the end of the story, like, I'll typically tell the players, hey, this is it. This is the last day of the arc. I've written 4 endings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps them understand that I've been anticipating possibility with a little bit of probability mixed in, so that they immediately understand that it's not about how I choose to end it. It's about how they choose.
Oh, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I want to pit them against Tiamat.
I got it on video. That's exactly what you said.
I had never said such a thing. That is a deep fake video. Yeah.
Rewind it. That's my rewind effect.
Yeah.
You don't think I actually played this game for 3 years to have them not fight Tiamat?
No,
that's exactly what you said.
That statement was not for my entertainment.
Your edification?
My edification. It is, my assumption is that none of the 5 or 6 of them want to end this campaign without fighting Tiamat. I will not railroad a story to that point. Okay. I'm just saying, yeah, I misspoke. It sounded like, well, they're going to fight this no matter what, because it's what I want to do. No. I'm just saying, from their standpoint, I'm assuming that they all want to fight Tiamat. Okay. But you bring up a good point, which is more than just a straight up, okay, what can I challenge them with? There's this many of them. They've got this many hit points, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Of the kind of the grind to get up there. So when you get there, everybody's not fresh and everybody's got half their hit points gone, half their spell slots gone and whatnot.
Right.
So that is a tool there. And again, as a player at those levels, I kind of feel the same way. It's like, I'm not going to die. I've got so many fucking hit points. We're fighting 3 mind flayers and a beholder, big deal. I might get down to 40 hit points. So yeah, there is that aspect of, again, I guess what I'm getting at is I think keeping them challenged is part of what keeps them immersed. And I think that in and of itself can be a challenge for a DM.
Yeah. And it may offer the question, does a veteran DM have an easier time with veteran players? Does a veteran DM have a harder time with net new players? It's a difficult question to ask, to kind of ascertain the data, because
that is a really good question. I've never asked that of myself.
The data tells us that a lot of people are playing this game.
Yeah.
The data tells us that a lot of people have always been playing this game for the last 40 years. And it boils down to one of the remaining challenges, whether you're a new player or, a veteran player. Can you tell the difference between playing the game and not playing the game? Just because you're playing a game where maybe your character's treated poorly within the idea of the game doesn't mean the DM or the other player hate you in real life. And I think sometimes, a lot of people will have a hard time seeing those differences. They're like, oh my God, he's being so mean to my goblin. He must really hate me. It's like, no, my wizard is insane, and he's trying to recruit your goblin to go into a secret tomb and retrieve a gem that I know will allow me to take over the world. I'm just trying to convince him. But should you stop and explain that? Is there value to explaining that? You know what I mean? Is there value to that challenge?
Yeah.
Makes PC death very hard. I've had a couple players like almost break into tears when their character died.
Well, and to me, that it's a good thing, because that shows that they were still engaged and immersed in the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to be honest,
they need to still be able to disengage. too.
Yeah, well, yeah,
And I worry about that.
I'm not saying
worry
it's
about
healthy to go into a deep depression because your goblin dies.
Like, I'm gonna walk over to one of my players' houses and see the inside of their house painted in the kind of scheme of their character. Their character they've been playing for 5 years.
Yeah.
And be like, oh shit.
I mean, to be perfectly
Okay.
honest, once I reach, and I've learned this with my warlock, once I reach 18th level, 19th level, it's kind of like, if my guy died at 10th level, I'd be really fucking upset. If he dies at 18th, I'm like, fine, I'll roll a new character and we'll start something else. To be honest.
Well, and I think that encourages more one shots, more side quests, more like did a one shot with people's backstory as a prequel. So I took something out of their collective backstory and they were playing other characters and they played those other characters in that collective prequel. So they're still tied into it by their backstory for their other characters, but they got to play something different for once.
Yes.
And they weren't overly invested because if your character dies in a one shot, no biggie. It happens.
But I think that's a really good approach that you have, because some of those one shots can turn into awesome story arcs or campaigns in and of themselves.
Yeah.
It also kind of leads back to that anthology style of narrative play that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think we're going to experiment with that with the Walking Dead game.
Yeah. And
what I was thinking is there was this really short-lived series on TV. It was called Way of the Gun or The Gun or something like that. It was all about this gun moving from person to person to person to person and the experience that those people were having with that gun. So it was like an anthology of an item that was passing through, generations and of people's hands and stuff. And I was and then Love, Death, Robots really piqued my interest in anthology, right?
I love that. Yeah.
And how cool would it be to run an anthology one shot that at the end of the series of one shots that you run, that becomes the origin of a campaign arc?
Yeah.
I mean, how much fun would that be? That'd be a lot
fantastic.
Of fun.
Yeah.
Well,
then you can also get in, and we've talked about this before, and we keep coming back to it because it's such an exciting proposition to me, at least. That could also lead into a multiverse. So you're playing D&D, but then guess what? Now you're playing Walking Dead. Now you're playing
newer players, and for newer players and newer DMs that might have a comic book fixation.
Yeah,
I think playing in a multiverse setting is a lot more forgiving than playing in a kind of established arc that may not be as forgiving for a newer group of people just going out there to play for the first time.
That's an interesting way in light of keeping people no, not Spelljammer, because it sucks.
Well, old Spelljammer is fine.
Yeah.
Which is
the idea of Spelljammer is awesome. But in light of keeping people engaged, that opens up the really interesting prospect of, we're playing D&D for a while. We kind of want to change up a little bit, but we still like our story. Because, sometimes when you put a campaign on pause, sometimes it just never gets going again.
Yeah, it's been a long time since that's happened, but I'm always very mindful of it.
Yeah.
And I think as a newer player, newer DM, and the idea of keeping veteran players involved, I think that's where technology helps a lot. Discord helps a lot. You can keep conversations going while you're on the break.
Sure.
Creating Facebook groups or chat groups or WhatsApp groups to kind of stay in contact with each other. I took a long break with my Candela Obscura group, right? We took almost 3 weeks off. And I built them a dossier file.
Exactly.
There's an actual name for that method, and I can't think of it right now. But
that would be awesome. So you jump from D&D to aliens, but yet somehow they're still connected.
I built I'm building a template for my newer games because I have a little bit more time and my seat prices. I want to make sure that the seat prices, hold their value. So what I'm doing now is I built a template book where for each of the newer games that I start, they'll get a chapter in a book.
Okay.
Right. So, basically I'll wait till 4 sessions go by and I'll call those 4 sessions a chapter, and then I'll summarize those 4 sessions in like a really nice book format and keep adding pages to it. So at the, every month we do a recap based on the previous 4 sessions. But it also gives them a very tangible thing to review so that they're not feeling overwhelmed by notes, or they're not feeling overwhelmed by lore drops, or they're worried about forgetting things, or maybe they want to see some imagery. So now they can have some imagery in there as well.
That is a really fucking cool idea. And, where my brain goes is the culmination of that becoming, you're basically writing an anthology book as you go.
So my Candela Obscura game that played today.
Yeah.
I'm calling the sessions chapters. And I just dropped them an 8-chapter book summarizing. It's like a dossier format of all their previous activities. And I could tell the minute I sent that and the minute we started the session, all the angst about our long break went away, because there wasn't a lot of note concerns. There wasn't any, I forgot this.
Yeah.
I forgot that. And I think for newer players, newer DMs, and even veterans to a certain degree, the one thing that Matt has taught me very well is don't be afraid of the recap. Embrace the recap. It could be very, very helpful to an entire table to listen to your very kind of confident nature of your voice in recapping a previous session, because that gives 2 things immediately to the table. It gives them the fact that they feel very well respected, that I'm taking good notes. They feel respect for that. They don't feel like I'm tying everything together at the last minute to try to deliver some kind of, immersive experience. The other thing too is it really decompresses the angst over note taking. Mm-hmm. Newer players could find that very rough. Yeah,
there you go.
Does. I mean, Kurt does really good note taking. I think he's like on page 100 of a 100-page notebook. We've been playing together for almost 2 years now. So but that's part of that session 0. It gives you an opportunity to interact with players and go, you got the good note player vibe, and you look like I'm going to have to hold dangly keys to keep your attention. And it goes back to that very first time you get at the table. If you're fortunate enough to get through the party talk and the cocktail talk to actually get to a table, honestly, the rest can be easier. It can be easier. Mm-hmm. It's getting them out of the, we should play. And they say that to you for 10 years. Yes. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's always the hard part.
And I think that, to your point, I think that applies to both people who have never played and yet want to. Yeah. And also sometimes to, to veteran players that, that for whatever reason, I took a really long hiatus from playing, when college happened and life happened and stuff like that. And then was pulled back into it. So I think it's applicable to both.
I would agree. One of these days we'll pick a topic we disagree on. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure it out.
We used to disagree a lot more. I think we've been together so long we've just kind of picked up each other. I thought we used to disagree. No, most of the time I think we do pretty much agree. Yeah.
I think one of the few times we disagreed when we talk very differently about action economy, mechanics.
Yes.
We always have that disagreement. I think, and we can't say it's generational. I think it's genuine play style difference.
Yeah.
I think we've also kind of disagreed on occasion as to, certain role aspects of a DM, and certain things in there. But I think once again, we both grew up playing D&D in a very similar environment, and we both transitioned very well to 5e.
We disagree a little bit on the crunchiness of mechanics.
And we disagreed on the milestone and XP. You love XP, and I love milestone.
I don't use XP anymore.
Well, not anymore, but traditionally you used to love XP.
Not since I was a kid. Since I've started playing seriously again over the past I don't know how many years.
There you go.
I haven't counted XP, and
I disagree. I think you're lying.
I think we disagree a little bit on the crunchiness of mechanics.
Yes, crunch. You're not a huge fan of crunch.
No, I am. I think I'm more a fan of crunch, as long as it is still supportive of narrative play. You seem to be much more free form and narrative.
Yes.
Whereas I like that, but I still like that on top of a crunchy mechanic system. You know.
Yeah. Why does that little hand keep popping up by your face?
Because everything I say is on point.
Is that a new feature in StreamYard?
I don't know. I would assume Kurt's doing that. Probably.
No, I don't think so.
We disagree about.
Yeah, we disagree on what you disagree on.
I don't know
if you've noticed this. I want to see. This is really cool. But they added a new feature for backgrounds.
Yeah, Colin, you're definitely a crunchy mechanic guy, but you're also really good at.
Check it out. They added video to your background now, so you can actually.
I could do the flames.
Yes, you can do the flames now. It's really cool, and yeah, I love StreamYard, man. They really
it's freaking awesome. StreamYard is great. I've tried to convert ever since you converted me. I try to convert everybody I can to StreamYard.
Yeah,
people are like,
really?
Can we do a meeting in Microsoft Teams? I'm like, how about Zoom? No, fuck Zoom. How about StreamYard?
StreamYard.
You want to do a meeting in StreamYard? Yeah, I actually do.
Yeah, it's a development team that's done a really good job of listening to their community and
I'll have
rolling
to
out new stuff to the community all the time.
Our Lawfully Chaotic.
Do the flame video, man. That'll be cool. We'll put that in there.
All right.
Well, we did it. We burnt another hour.
So let me ask you this. I know we talked about taking a winter break. Do we want to stop this early, or I kind of feel like we should do a couple more episodes? Or
no, I think we should stop probably around the first week of Thanksgiving. That way we're off Thanksgiving until New Year's, and then we'll come back with season 3.
Okay. For some reason, I had thought you said around Halloween or before you wanted.
No, I said around Halloween we should talk about when we think.
Oh my fucking god! Remember WebEx?
Garbage.
Oh wow!
Garbage.
Oh my god. Okay, well in that case, we will figure out a topic for next week. And I guess we will.
Where can we find you, Brian?
Well, we do have announcements. I wasn't like ending. Do you have any?
I don't know. You were doing that little churn that you do when you're slowing down.
Yeah, I know, and I kind of didn't mean that was actually inadvertent. Believe it or not.
You're a fucking liar.
We're disagreeing
I'm not. All manner of 5 minutes.
I disagree about me. You telling me to lie to you, fucker. I have a customer that since. Oh my god! I would just say no. It's against my religion.
I would get a new customer.
My rabbi said I can't use WebEx.
You know what? Send your customer an abacus and say, "Here, we'll do it on this."
Yeah, right. Or some fucking
or an Etch-a-Sketch.
WebEx. Oh my god, I'd kill myself.
WebEx.
Jason, you got any announcements?
Go check out RPG.net. Hold on, let me put it in.
This is
technically
so
the new website. We're RPG Club, which is rpgclub.net.
Right, which is the old D&D club.
Yeah, we are live, so feel free to go check it out if you want to.
Cool.
We're working on a couple little bugs that have to deal with some billing cycles, but other than that, it's looking great and it's looking stable. And got a lot of available games. I just posted a new Saturday game, and I just posted a new Sunday game. Cool. One is a Thieves Journey, and the other one is New Frontiers.
Who the fuck are your customers?
Yeah, bro, Netscape, is that still a thing? Is that still around?
Well, internet minutes.
What am I gonna do with all
I still got an 11.
CDs?
I still got an 11-foot high stack of AOL CDs.
You can turn those into solar power panels now.
Big auto manufacturers. Well, there you go. That's why nobody's fucking car works. That's awesome. Yeah. So, okay. So check out RPG. What is it? RPGclub.net.
Correct.
Okay. Check that out. I don't really have any more announcements. I said them at the beginning of the show.
And where can we find you?
You can find me at RPG&Co. At on inside of Instagram. That's the best place to reach me. Shoot me a DM. Check out my feed. Also check out the website at Play RPG&Co. There's a whole bunch of apparel, some stickers and swag, and a lot of cool digital content. A great deal of it from Jason, some from me, a little bit from the Bearded Nerd, and we are always trying to add more. So yeah, check it out.
Go and subscribe over at TTRPG Academy, either in YouTube or Twitch. Go to the Abouts, and you'll find our Discord, Instagram, and all of our other feeds. TPK.
Wait, when are we gonna? I thought we already do cross link each other's sites.
We just did that. I think Kurt's in a bubble. Look at the look on your face.
Kurt, you want us to have the next episode on WebEx? On the sites. Oh, yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point. Okay.
I think when we sit down during our break to start organizing season 3, we have at least 3 major things that we want to work on.
Yes.
We need a social manager.
Yes.
We need to go from 4 channels to probably 1 or 2 channels.
Yes.
And we need to come up with a unified website to kind of help, direct topics and stuff like that. So there's, the fact that we've almost made it through season 2 and we're still having fun doing it, I think was the great litmus test of whether or not we wanted to keep doing it. And I think 2024 is just turning out to be a banger of a year, folks. It's gotta be great. Gotta be great.
We'll be doing this show from a fucking foxhole
bunker.
Somewhere.
Yeah. With an orange-green glow around us.
Okay.
Oh,
a soundboard. What do you mean a fucking soundboard? The sound is top notch. It's the best thing about this fucking show.
Well, I think he means like the sound of a spring or a, production.
Right. Oh,
work.
Yes.
Like production.
Okay,
work,
once again, sorry you got me. You're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be. Well, I have it. It's right here. I just don't fucking use it for that. So yes, we will put that on the list for sure. Is the rant cam effects and the. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you just turned off your camera.
No, I just turned on my camera. No, I plugged in the Stream Deck and it killed my feed. Well, anyway, there we go. Different camera.
There's your other angle. Yeah, I've thought about putting in a Stream Deck, but I've got 5 cameras and I don't really want to have to redo them during my studio games. So I'll just be blunt. I'm too fucking lazy for a Stream Deck. I would rather pay somebody else to do it. To be honest with you.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, so let's add that to the list as a producer to run this show. Wow, look how shitty the camera is on my MacBook compared to my laptop.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. It's a Mac.
Dude. Okay, now we fucking disagree on something. Camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1, camera 2.
Too bad your Stream Deck doesn't work.
No, it works. I just don't because I'm too fucking lazy.
All right, Brian, TPK.
Tell a story.
Play a game.
And be kind. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.